In this video, I'm going to share my top 3 tips for how to better release music and make sure that you find your audience and hopefully even get paid. My name's Al Marshall. I've been in business for over 30 years as a musician, as a working musician. I've also run my own recording studio and production company. I am really excited to share some of that experience with you on this channel. When I started out, I had no idea how I was going to release my music, let alone get it in front of people. I made all the big mistakes. I promoted to my friends and family, I did a whole bunch of other things, and I've learnt my lesson, knowing now exactly the most efficient, most effective way to get my music to the right audience and how to get paid. So if you want to learn how to get more traction in the music industry, you've come to the right place. And I'm really excited to share my proven methodology for how to do just that. There are 3 things that I want you to think about, and each one is super important. And they're all connected, think about like a triangle, they're all connected by one thing, and that one thing is your audience. So when we make music, there's really 2 ways to think about it. We can play for ourselves, or we can play for someone else. And that someone else is your audience. And rather than think about them as like a big faceless group of individuals that you're playing to from a lofty stage, think about it in terms of one person. Who is the one person that you're playing to that the music is for? Because at the end of the day, we want to connect with someone. We want to connect with another human being. That's the beautiful thing about music, is that when we make music, it's all about connection. It's all about someone getting our music and really understanding it. So in a way, music is a beautiful thing because it solves problems. Let's think about it this way. Let's imagine you're in the car. Maybe something bad has happened, like you've been in a breakup, or you had a fight with your friend, or whatever, or something bad happened at work. You know, it's so nice to be able to just switch off, and we can do that by whacking the music on in the car and listening to it and really enjoying a tune, and maybe it's something soulful that puts us in a good mood. Or maybe let's look at another scenario. Just say you're going into town with all your friends and you're all excited and you're about to go out in the town, and how good is it to be able to put the music on and everyone likes the tune and gets all excited and we all get upbeat, and it really fuels us and gives us the energy we need to go into the city and enjoy ourselves. Or maybe we're in the club or something and we want to dance, and so that kind of music serves a purpose. It has a groove, it has a rhythm, and so we listen to it and we get excited and we dance along to it and all the rest of it. So we really need to think about that purpose, and when we make music, the number one thing that links everything is the fan or the audience or the person that you're playing for. So on to the release strategy. As I said, there are only 3 things that we really need to think about, and they're all connected by our audience. Number 1, it's the music itself. So we talk about music sometimes as a product because producers make and help make music, and that's why they're called producers, because it's a music product. So the first thing is the music. The second thing is recognition. So how recognizable is our music? Have we heard it before? Have we heard things from another artist? Or is it similar to something else? Can we recognize something about the music? And the third thing is, do we have access to the music? Like in the old days, we'd put a CD on or a cassette into our cassette player or whatever, and we would have access to the music and we'd be able to listen to it. Nowadays it might be distributed online, so maybe we go onto Apple Music or Spotify or something and we access it there. Or maybe we access it through social media. We might be looking up YouTube, or we might be looking up Instagram, and we see the music and we listen to it. So let's talk briefly about the music itself. So we need to be thinking about music as a product. Now, how do we do that? Well, first of all, back in the old days, and even now, there's this role, right, called the producer. And what the producer does is takes the music and makes it into a product that can then be released. So, what does a producer do and why are they important? So let's say you're used to making your own food at home, and you like to make the food like you like to make it, and you like to also eat and enjoy the food. Well, you might have someone over for dinner and they try your food and go, oh my god, it's all spicy and I don't really like it. Oh, bleh, And you wouldn't have known that because you happen to like spicy food. So when the person comes over, you know, they're going to have a different taste. And so what a producer's supposed to do is really kind of be your, you know, tester of the food. Taste it, go, that needs a bit of salt, or maybe it needs a bit of this. And by the way, why don't we make it a 3-course meal, and, you know, give people an entree, and let's pair it with a bottle of wine, and so on and so forth, right? So they're kind of like your helper, but more importantly, they're another person that can look at your music and look at it in a very subjective way. Okay, so what do you do if you don't have a producer? So I can give you a pretty cool trick for how you can deal with this problem. So when I make music, I go through different phases, and let me just tell you what those phases are. So the first phase is the composition phase. That's where I'll sit with my guitar and a piece of paper and a pad, and I'll make music, and I'll write down some lyrics, and I might even just record it on my phone, because then I've got a copy of it, and that's my process. That's how I write a song, and I'll do a video on that and show you how I actually do it. Then I've got a song, and then what I'll do is I'll save that file from my phone, I'll put it on my computer in a folder, and I'll forget about it. And if I want to write another song, I'll go through the same process again. I'll record it on my phone, and I'll play, and especially if I'm in a really good kind of, if I'm humming and I've got a good vibe going, I might write a couple of songs, or I might write a few different bits. Even if I've just got an idea, I might just write that down, or if, you know, record it. And then I put all that away, and then when I want to produce music, I'll then open the folder and I'll pull out all of those different ideas, and I'll listen to them, and then I'll find bits that I like, and then what I'll do is I'll open up Digital Audio Workstation and I'll start the production process. Now, the production process for me is really simple. I will set a template, I will look at the BPM of the song, I will maybe play some drums first and get some drums down, then I'll record different takes of the song in different ways, and I'll go through a recording process to really lay down all the tracks. It's a bit of an iterative process. If I feel, oh, I could do a bit of bass over this bit, I might play a bit of bass, and I'll end up recording all of that music, which is really the first phase in production. Then I'll put it away again, and I'll come back to it, and when I come back to it, what I'll do is I'll then think about it, and I'll listen to it subjectively, and I might go, oh, that needs, you know, like a bit of salt or a bit of spice or whatever it is, and I might change bits or I might work it, but I'll develop the idea into something that I'm pretty happy with. And so this is where we can take that version of the song, and that's called a demo version because we haven't mixed and mastered it. It might still be pretty rough and ready. And I might actually go and do some testing. What's testing? What's that all about? Well, we've got a thing in marketing called A/B testing. Okay, now A/B testing is basically taking one version and another version and looking to see which one gets more traction. Now we can do that in many different ways. We might have our own branded channel where we release songs and things like that, but in this case I don't think we should release our music on that. You want to have another channel, another way to push the music out to maybe another audience of listeners so that they can provide feedback in a way that isn't going to affect your brand or your reputation, but maybe you'll be able to get some feedback as to which one got better traction. And there's so many different ways to do it. You can be creative around that. You might have your own SoundCloud account, you know, a group of producers or someone that, you know, you have on a different platform that you trust. There's lots of different ways to do it. Don't do it to your friends and family because they'll just give you unbiased feedback. And then you can start to iterate and improve. Now you've got your demo out there and you've worked out that song is better than this song, or maybe that version of the song, or this one had more of a dancey vibe or whatever. You can then start to get it down to a point where you go, all right, I've now got something that I think people are connecting with. And this is where you then produce it. You go in, you mix it, you master it, one of your vocal tracks, and then you do some backing vocals, or you might produce it in a slightly different way, or use different effects. But the point is you end up basically producing it into a finished format. So that's the production process. Now you've got a finished track. So let's talk about the second thing, and that is recognizability. It's a little bit like promotion, but it's not so much about promotion, it's also about you as a brand. There's something that happens in music that's super strange. When we recognize something, we're more likely to like it. And what we do as humans is we try to find patterns with things because we're really driven around recognizability. If we don't recognize something, we probably won't actually listen to it. Or if we do, we'll switch off, or we won't give it the time of day, or we might go, well, that's not good, because we're actually wired to only like the things that we recognize. So for artists starting out, this is a really, really big problem, because you might push all of your music out and it might be accessible to people, but no one actually listens to it because they don't know who you are. They don't connect with you as a brand or as a person. And so because they don't recognize you, they're not going to listen to your music. Or if they do stumble on it, it's because they're doing something else. So let's talk about radio play. The only way to get things released back in the old days was getting things on the radio. There was a thing called high rotation, where songs were played again and again and again on high rotation, which meant that people would non-actively listen to it, but after a while they'd recognize it and then they'd start to sing along, and then someone will say, hey, do you like that track? And you'd be like, oh, I don't know, who is that? Oh, it's Michael Jackson. Oh, is that his new track? Oh, I didn't know. Yeah, you know, the one that goes like this, like that. Oh yeah, I do know that song. Yeah, I like it. Yeah. Because you recognize it. So how do we make our music recognizable to listeners? And we have this big dip. We have this chasm, if you will, that we need to cross as artists. And this is where in the music industry they call it breaking an artist. This concept of breaking an artist was really developed by record labels in order to take someone that was unknown and make them known so that they can then sell their albums and sell their music and all the rest of it. Breaking an artist typically costs a lot of money. So if you wanted to break an artist, you might have to do a bunch of things. Like in the old days, you would try and get them airplay, and the disc jockeys or the DJs would promote it and put it on high rotation. And often, that you needed to pay to get that in there. So a lot of record labels would have people that they would pay that were on the payroll, that they'd give brown paper bags to play the music out on national radio and things like that to get the music heard. Then there were other things that would happen, like for example, they would promote the music and do a big advertising campaign and promote the artist, and they used to go to shopping malls and sign records and things like that, and they would get them on the Billboard charts. And the way that they would do that would be to put a lot of records in store, and then they would go and buy the records back. It was called payola. The record companies would actually go and buy their own records back using lots and lots of money to artificially put people up higher in the rankings, so it would look like they sold lots of records, and then people would listen to the top 40 and go, oh, I like that person, or I like that. And it was a whole big scam. Nowadays, there's never been more opportunity. It's also never been more competitive. But there's a couple of things we can do, and this is why the listener is really, really important. When we look at the music, we need to think, who is our listener? Who is actually going to connect with our music? Because then we know where our marketplace is in order to promote our music out to listeners. Sometimes we talk about Spotify playlists, sometimes we talk about lots of different ways to get our music out there. The most important thing is really for people to passively listen to it until they kind of hear it for the first time, and then the second time, the third time. They might hear a snippet of it, maybe on social media, and then that becomes recognizable, and then they relate that to your brand or your artist persona, and then go, that person equals that person. Okay, I like that person, so therefore I'll like all of his music or her music, and then I can explore. But again, there's this gap, which is what we call breaking the artist. Now, there's lots of different videos about that. You can Google breaking an artist and what it takes. And some people say it takes up to $100,000 to break an artist for the first time. I think you can be a little bit more clever in how you do it rather than spending a bunch of cash. There's something that happens in our brains as humans, which is as we hear things in a repeated fashion, we become used to it and then it becomes recognizable. So the question is, rather than pushing it out on national radio or whatever like the old days, because of social media, we can actually find our audience, and it might be a very small audience. Once we've identified who that person is that we're trying to connect with, our audience, then it's all about how do we get our music in front of that audience. And we can be really, really targeted so that we know that looking at this other artist, a lot of the people that listen to them are in this kind of category. It's this age group, they're into these other things, they probably like these other artists. And we start to build up a bit of a persona, a bit of a view of who our target listener is. And from a promotion and recognizability, it becomes much more easy to then target them with messaging with your music in it so that they can listen to it. Maybe what we do is we create another channel that might have nothing to do with you, but you can create these other channels where they're already kind of watching a particular type of meme, or maybe they're into animation or they're into something else, and you can start to go, okay, how do I get my music into that channel so that they can start to listen to it, and then it becomes recognizable, and then they actively go searching for you to really listen to it. And that's the recognizability piece. If you're thinking of releasing something, say on Spotify, so I'm going to release it on Spotify and I'm going to tell everyone about it and so on, and I'm going to spend money on an ad campaign, that's probably not going to work unless you've built up that recognizability piece first. Why are they going to go onto your Spotify and listen to your music if they've never heard it before? If you're just promoting it on your own YouTube channel or your own Instagram, unless you've got a big audience already, how are you going to get people to listen to it? It's much better if you determine other channels that you can be pushing it out, and then you can actually even get the statistics and go, all right, that little snippet that really picked up, that hook was really great. That's a really great way to get it out first before you release it, because you can give people little samples and they can start to hear it before they go, oh, I want to, like in the old days they'd hear it on the radio and then they'd be like, oh, I'm going to go into the shop and buy the album. So let's talk now about the access piece. So a lot of people now just put things onto Spotify or Apple Music or whatever, YouTube Music, and they drive people to those channels in order to get streams and so on. We all know that there's not a lot of money in streaming, or there is if you're a massive artist and you've got loads of fans and you've been able to build up the recognizability piece really, really high. But most of the time, for upcoming artists, you're not going to make much through streaming, and in fact you need to get up to a certain number of streams in order to even make any money. If we're going to all that effort to create recognizability about our music, and then we're relying on sending people to someone else's platform to then listen to the music, wouldn't it be better to maybe just put a sample of music on Spotify, but before you do that, maybe you release it somewhere else? Right? So you could push out a promotion thing on social with little snippets of songs, little bits and pieces to see which ones really resonate, and then decide which songs you're going to release in what order. And why not drive people to your own website where they can download or buy the music digitally before it gets released on Spotify? Because then at least you're making some money. If you're going through all that effort to build that audience and then push them to your own website where you could sell a digital download for $6 or $10 or whatever. If people like it and they want to go and find you, why would you direct them to a third-party platform where you don't get any money? Why not direct them to your own website where you can make some money and then release it on Spotify? Maybe you have the full release on your website and you have like maybe 1 or 2 songs on Spotify. Right? That might be a smarter way, because then all the effort that you did on promoting and pushing out your album or snippets of your songs on social, whatever, to create recognizability, you can get back, because then you can take that money and then you can create a better film clip or a better recording of the same song, rather than just give it to Spotify, because at the end of the day they don't care if you make money out of streaming. They're going to try and pay you as little as possible. I mean, it's probably good to be on those platforms a little bit, so if people are listening and they want to find you on those platforms, yeah, they can look you up and you might have a couple of songs on there. But don't expect to make any money from that. Just have it as a convenience for your people. If people like you, they will go and find you. And if they're going to do that, you may as well ask them to pay some money, and that way you're monetizing your work. And it becomes, I don't want to say funnel, but a flywheel. Okay, so the music quality is then connected to recognizability. And recognizability is connected to access and monetization. And as you get more money from fans who pay you, you can then put it into your production, making your music better, and the more you play, the better you get. And then you can then put that also into your promotion, creating recognizability. And as you develop your brand and you become more and more recognized, it becomes this flywheel because they're all connected. For it to really work, you need to think about your audience, because your audience is the connective tissue that connects all of those things. They're the ones that need to like your music and enjoy it and go, oh, I like that. And they will only do that if the quality of the music's good or to their taste. And they will only listen to it if it's recognizable, or they've heard a bit of it before, or they know you as a brand, or it gets recommended to them. And they will only listen to it and go and find you if it's accessible, if they can actually find you online and buy your music and all the rest of it. And if you're going to spend all that time getting your music out there, Spotify is not going to promote it for you. You're going to have to promote it. And if you're going to promote it, why not promote your own distribution when releasing music? They're the three things. It's about the music, it's about being recognizable, and then it's also about how you make that music accessible. But it all comes down to your fans and building true fans. Because then you might start off with 5 people that are your true fans, and that's okay. And then it might become 10 and 15, 20, 30, 100, 1,000, or 5,000. But wouldn't you rather have 5,000 true fans that are spending money with you than 50,000 listens that pay you nothing? If you've got true fans, you can also get feedback from them, and you can bring them into the process, and you can show them the behind the scenes, and you can start to really test out different things and different promotion strategies and different ideas. So it becomes this community. That's really, for me, the future of music. It's coming up with these really cool communities around our music and sharing it with people that we know are going to already resonate with it. It's a two-way street. We're creating a connection where we're not just up on stage in front of a faceless crowd. We're all in a room together enjoying music. Find a community of other artists that are part of this network. They're also going to help you promote your music, and you can promote their music, and you can create a whole revolution around a particular type of music, and it becomes a movement. There you go. I hope you really enjoyed that. Please go and check out some of these other videos that I've got on my channel that talk about the same topic, and hopefully you enjoyed it. And my name's Al Marshall, signing off. Thank you.